in some regards. I'm not as much of a Nolan devotee as I once was.
Yeah, I think like. Well, didn't you once say that Inception was one of your favorite movies?
It was once in my top 10 favorite movies.
Okay.
I'm not sure that's the case anymore.
Okay, because I'm going to bring that out because like I kind of want to see like what things you saw then retained their goodness on this way through.
Yeah.
See, because out of these three movies, Inception was was probably the better of the three.
Oh, you think so?
I didn't finish it. Even though I didn't finish it, it was still the better of the three because it was the only one that didn't have grave pacing issues.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to get into it. Like, do we just want to start recording? Or...
I've been recording for the last 57 seconds.
Oh, goody.
Okay.
Back to Christopher Nolan.
But to answer your question, John, I don't think... Well, yes, actually, I do think he's kind of a mystery boxer.
He's a mystery boxer in his own way.
Well, he and J.J. Abrams have a lot of, like, similar kind of... You know, they're both they both keep, like, tight control over the marketing. They both, like, don't like a lot of, like, stuff about the movie to get out beforehand. They're very, tight-lipped about everything. It just so happens that...
Built around twists.
Yeah, it just so happens that J.J. Abrams pretty much only makes franchise movies and Super 8, and Christopher Nolan is at least making original ideas for most of his movies.
Yeah, that's... I mean, that's one thing, like, I will come down to, like, Christopher Nolan is one of the few, like, big filmmakers making original IPs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we shall praise him for that, as I tear him down.
Forever and ever.
With faint praise, I think is your phrase.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen as much this week. I think it's just going to be a legitimate tearing down.
Oh, goody. Well, we all have that to look forward to, but welcome back to the Hack Fraud Show. It's time. We're back. And Nolan is...
You're just going to replace, like, our like, upbeat Grand Budapest theme with just, like, dark, deep, classical music. As, like, artillery shells getting heard in the background.
Listen, we had long promised a war regarding the director we're going to talk about this week, Mr. Christopher Nolan, but... As I was saying, I think it will be more of a diplomatic conversation. I'm hoping we can all be fair here today.
We are at Geneva representing our respective nations.
Sure. I hope we can all be fair today and assess this Mr. Christopher Nolan and these films with some sort of temperance.
There was a BBC interview he did a couple years back, and I think in it he revealed that he shot most of his film on celluloid.
He does indeed. He's
a real film man.
Up there on the wall. Dunkirk was shot on 65 millimeter, so it's
and you can tell
it's got that going for it, which is great. But I think Darren Franich maybe put it best. Film and practical effects don't really matter if you shoot things poorly.
Yeah.
Although that is mainly regarding Interstellar, because one thing I discovered this week is that I actually like the way most of Nolan's movies are shot.
His way of shooting is very like film school. This is how you're supposed to shoot things. Like he doesn't really go out of the box very often.
Maybe with the exception of maybe something in Inception.
Memento has a few like weird like cinematic things going for like its use of black and white.
Yeah.
Which is like there's some interesting things in Memento. I think like with the exception of a few like set pieces, I think Inception shot really boringly.
I have a lot to say about Memento and The Prestige and sort of comparing the two, mainly because after seeing parts of Inception, most of Inception rather, it's sort of in a class of its own. But I think I'd say still holds up.
Do we want to do like what we've been watching before like we dive?
I mean, I have a lot of things that I've been watching. I could maybe put some. I want to talk about Wonder Woman because.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about that. That's like the big thing. Like I want to talk about Prometheus and Wonder Woman, and that's what I can get out of this.
I wish I did not get to watch Prometheus. I wanted to, but I was not able to get around to it. But I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Maybe you shouldn't have watched it. Maybe that's a good thing.
Okay.
Technically, I watched something. between the time we recorded.
Ooh.
What would that be?
Except you're gonna groan when I say this. So you killed it.
I wanted to talk about it because you hadn't seen In Bruges before, and I don't think we've talked about In Bruges much on this podcast.
I think we mentioned it no, we never mentioned it.
I think we've mentioned it, but I don't think we've ever really
mentioned it, but we never talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Or have we talked about it?
I don't know. I may have mentioned it in passing on the show.
It's a nice, dainty film about, principles and architecture and in general, and high-powered weaponry. In a nice, light, airy film called In Bruges.
Yeah.
Where it has a guy, bloody and maimed, fall out of a building, splat on the ground like a tomato, and he's still alive to tell the main protagonist important. To which I'm like, damn, this is a cool movie. So, In Bruges.
I will say this, In Bruges is all the things I love just sort of circling around in the same place, where it's we have lovely Flemish architecture, we have the sort of small town butted up against crime organizations that I love, we have pitch black humor, we have philosophical existential crises about morality. And I love all of that. And it's all in one place in Bruges.
Yeah, In Bruges is great. And we all watched it together a couple weeks ago, right after recording the last episode. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to know that you enjoyed this film, Dr. Reed.
Yes, thank you. One of the more striking images is when Ray Fiennes' character accidentally shoots the
midget.
dwarf.
They call him a midget in the movie. I think we're at liberty to call him a midget.
A midget. To quote
with
and
air
mistakes
quotes.
it for a child, and then Ray Fiennes' character goes, "Well, fuck," and then blows his brains out.
This is pre-Grand Budapest. This is before we knew Ray Fiennes could be really fucking funny. He's a fucking delight in the movie.
Oh yeah,
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Funniest antagonist I've seen
Oh, he's fucking hilarious.
forever.
Look, I'd argue that he actually has a really funny performance in Schindler's List, but that's kind of beyond the point.
I mean, it has humorous moments, but
Yes.
don't know if I would call it a funny performance. But In Bruges, strongly recommend from all of us, I would say.
Yeah, I think has Warner ever seen this movie?
That probably not.
I think he'd like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he'd like it. Maybe we should subject him to it at some point.
One last note is that the score is built around consent, but halfway through the movie you were thinking, man, I really want to fuck this score. But then about 3/4 and it fucks you.
I have never heard a score described in that way, so I am glad that is graced our podcast.
Fuck the score, or the score fucks you. Great.
Oh, goodness.
Okay.
Can I talk about Prometheus?
Yes, please do talk about Prometheus.
Okay, Prometheus. What was this, 2012 this came out?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
It was, directed by Ridley Scott, as we all know. It was kind of touted as this prequel to Alien. Was that kind of what?
Well, in the lead up to it was kind of strange, as I recall, because it was like, Ridley Scott's making a new Alien movie. It's a prequel to Alien, because Sigourney Weaver's not going to be in it.
Just the Alien trailer, practically.
Pretty much. Well, then what happened was, Ridley Scott was like, actually, no, it's not an Alien prequel. And then he was like, well, actually, it is, kind of, but, not really. And then, the trailer came out, and we were like, oh, this definitely looks like an Alien movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's got, alien stuff in it, but, Clay Colors is right. He doesn't give a fuck about, the creature stuff in the movie. There's some, really interesting body horror in it, but, sometimes you just get, oh, there's a creature on the ground, it looks like a snake, oh, it attacks them, and it breaks their arms, Like that, he just doesn't care, but, there is, a scene, Do you know of like the like alien abortion scene?
Yeah.
That's actually a great scene. That's actually a really great piece of body horror there. But the rest of it is just kind of like, oh look, a giant white man is being eaten by a vagina.
Oh, that sounds like the ultimate distillation of whatever H.R. Geiger was
Yeah.
working
I mean,
towards.
it's still the H.R. Geiger stuff in the movie is great. Like, this movie is fucking gorgeous.
Mm.
This movie is fucking gorgeous when it tries. I think, like, I get more of the feeling that, like, this is kind of a piece with Alien Covenant, because it's kind of like, I mean, it's written by Damon Lindelof.
Yeah.
So, like, it's built around a twist, and these twists are pointless. Like, one of the twists in the movie is that, like, because, like, this is kind of a thing about the Alien universe, is that, like, these aren't government space workers. These are, like, they're working for a corporation. Right. Like, in the beginning of the movie, you see a hologram of, like, the ancient CEO. Mm. But then they learn, oh, no, he's on the ship. He wanted to meet God. And there's, like, another, like, sort of a kind of antagonist character, and she is, like, sort of like the captain of the ship. And, like, we learn that, like, she is his daughter. And, like, the movie reveals it. It's like the fucking, like, My Name is Khan scene, where, like, she's right there with him, and she says, yes. And she almost looks into the camera and says, Father. Like, it was the most important thing that's ever been on cinema screens, and it's pointless.
Oh, Damon Lindelof.
So, like, and, like, there's, like, everything you've heard about is true. Like, the crew is all idiots who don't know what they're doing. Like, there's lots of talks about God, but it's, like, God as rendered by stupid religious people. And I don't mean that, like, religious people are stupid. I mean religious people who are also idiots. But, like, the stuff with Michael Fassbender as David is fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender as David and, like, his relation to these engineers, which, like, the engineer stuff, like, which are just, like, these huge white dudes.
Yes.
That has the opportunity to be, like, really cool, but by the end, it just turns into, like, the engineers are, like, this big monster that we have to kill. And that's really disappointing. So what I'm saying right now is just really roaming and all over the place, because that's the movie in a nutshell. Like, sometimes you'll just get, like, some gorgeous, like, cinematography with some great H.R. Geiger visuals and some, like, really intense themes about God and religion. Like, David as an AI, as an android, like, interacting with, like, these creatures that we are told created humanity is really fast. Like, there's, like, this wonderful scene where, like, he's in, like, the alien ship and, like, he activates a board, and, like, you just see, like, this, like, wonderful, like, light show of, like, holograph engineers, like, operating a ship, and it's just, like, there's no dialogue, the score soars, it is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
But then you have things like one of the guys turns into a zombie. And it's the worst. Prometheus is a big pile of stupid, but it's a really interesting pile of stupid. If that makes any sense.
It's about what I figured would probably be the case. I mean, when this movie came out, it was pretty divisive, but the one thing pretty much everyone agreed on was that Fassbender's performance was great.
Yeah, like, it is like a really messy movie with some awesome pieces.
Yeah,
with some, like, legitimately, like, great, like, Ridley Scott is a master and is honing his craft. That's within this Damon Lindelof fuck piece. So take of that as you will. Like, if you just want more David and some beautiful, beautiful cinematography, you might get something out of it.
Okay.
So, like, it's certainly an interesting piece. I think it's, like, I do think it's, like, worth watching and discussing.
Okay. Well, I will say that David's thread about kind of connection with the engineers and with creation comes to full fruition in Alien Covenant. So that
now I kind of want to watch Alien Covenant.
Alien Covenant makes us want to watch Prometheus, but Prometheus makes us want to watch Alien Covenant.
Maybe I just want Ridley Scott just to abandon all of it and just, like, make a movie about God. Like just
Uh,
like go like full Scorsese Last Temptation of Christ and just go for it.
I would be first in line for that. Maybe not first in line, but I would be in line for that.
I'd be second in line for that. There's someone else I'd guarantee that cares more. Okay. I also watched a Sherlock Holmes movie because I was sick as a dog and needed something to calm me down. It was called, because I think I watched like this huge like video essay about Sherlock, and like the guy who made it said like this was one of his favorites. So I said, you know what? Let's have a good time. I'm going to watch this guy's favorite Sherlock Holmes piece. It's Sherlock Holmes and the Pearl of Death.
Okay. Never heard of it.
Goofy. It's neither had I, but it's actually a really nice time. There's, I think it was made in 1944.
Okay.
I think that's right. I could be wrong.
Is this one of the ones that stars Basil Rathbone as Holmes, or is it someone else?
I don't think so. No, I don't think that's the case. I think it's a different. I can't quite. It's been like I was sick as a dog, and it's been a week since I've seen it. So like I kind of lose all the names of it. But like I don't think it is Basil.
Okay.
Whoever they have playing him, he's a delightful, charming man. And they have like your classic sort of like buffoonish Watson. It's about like this pearl. It's called the Borgia pearl, and it's like this pearl that is so beautiful and so large that like everyone like bankrupts themselves and destroys themselves trying to obtain it. Like there's some really interesting filmmaking in it. Like there's an entire like piece where like we're filming Holmes and Watson, but they're out of focus, and it's all about like what we see in the background. And like there's like this like character. I think they call him the Strangler. Or the creep or something like that, and I thought we never see his face until the very end, and like there's lots of interesting things about like he's always shot in shadow, and that's really interesting. And of course, it has like the classic Holmesian. There is a mystery about. We need to figure out who's behind all this and how we can catch them. And there's like it's a bunch of charming actors with some nice cinematography, solving a nice mystery. It's based off of Arthur Conan Doyle's The Six Napoleons, and it's a lovely time. If you just need like something to like relax to, it's nice. It's a nice time with classic cinema.
Okay, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. In fact, this movie does star Basil Rathbone.
Oh, does it now? I could have sworn it was someone else. Oh, goodness.
Well, I guess you were in a fog of sickness or whatever. But...
I suppose so.
All right, so that's that. Anything else you need to talk about?
You won't just talk Wonder Woman?
Well, I have some things I can run down. Maybe I'll save some of this for next week, but there's a couple things. I watched the Coen Brothers Burn After Reading.
Ooh, you watched Burn After Reading?
Yeah, gonna be honest, I didn't like it that much.
You?
Now, I didn't think it was that funny, so that was a kind of there were parts of it, like J.K. Simmons, he appears on screen like for a grand total of maybe 5 minutes, but I was on the floor the entire time.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's like La La Land, except you're not on the floor the entire time.
Right, pretty much.
And Burn After Reading is a much better movie, but
well, I don't know. This movie, I think some people like kind of read it as like a legitimate satire, like as a commentary on like these are the people who are like running our government, because it's like a misbegotten like spoof CIA thriller where it's almost impossible to describe the plot because it's so absurd and ridiculous.
Yeah, the absurdity of it just becomes the joke after a while.
Yeah. Again, lots of good stuff here. I love George Clooney, his character and his performance.
It's got Frances McDormand's in it, and she's great.
Well, God, the other thing is that this movie was making me question whether I actually like Frances McDormand, which is a cardinal sin, and I was very disappointed by that. I don't know. I wasn't super entertained by it. It's got good stuff in it. And the other thing is that, like, as I was about to say, like, some people read it as, like, a commentary, like, these are the people who are, like, running our government. I don't see it that way. I don't think the movie, like, begs to be read that way, like, at all.
No. I think it's more just like it's kind of just more like one of their like it's kind of a piece of like a Serious Man where it's like you just have J.K. Simmons at the end just saying like, do we learn anything? Does anything matter? Who the fuck cares?
Right. Yeah.
It's like it's another one of those like absurdist existential movies.
Yeah. So that's that. I don't know. So other people like it more than I do. So who's to say?
It's got a great John Malkovich performance.
That is a great John Malkovich performance. I will say that. And then I guess this will be the only other thing I talk about this week besides Wonder Woman. But at the insistence of my friend, I watched Kevin Smith's Tusk. And let me explain this movie. So Kevin Smith, like us, has a podcast. On this podcast, some years back, they spent like the entire episode like, coming up with the plot of a ridiculous movie about a guy going to Canada and getting sewn into a walrus costume made from human flesh. And they outlined the whole plot of this movie on the podcast, asked their Twitter followers whether they wanted it to actually be a movie. Twitter, of course, said yes. So Kevin Smith somehow...
The internet is a constant hellhole.
So Kevin Smith somehow pulls together $3 million to make this movie. And it is the most pointless thing I have ever witnessed. He made, like, people talk about Sausage Party as, like, a stoner dare that went too far. This movie was literally...
This is literally a stoner dare that went too far.
Yeah, this movie was literally made because they pitched it on a podcast as a joke, and everyone said they wanted to see it as an actual movie. And... it is entertaining enough because you know the whole thing is just one giant joke, but you also cannot shake the feeling the whole time, like, this whole thing is just a giant joke. Why the fuck is this a thing? Why was this made?
Why am I watching it?
Why was Kevin Smith able to have the resources to make this movie? Oh god, capitalism. We need a class revolution in this country.
Yeah, the clout around the movie makes you lose faith in cinema as it's currently constructed.
Pretty much. So, yeah, there is no reason to see this movie. You don't know the definition of a scene that goes on too long until you've seen this movie. So, yeah, that's Tusk.
Yeah, like, I've never seen the movie, but I've heard extensively about, like, the background of it and, like, how it's just the worst movie.
Kevin Smith is using podcasting for evil. I hope we're using it for good.
Yeah, I like to think we're using it for good. We're also using it for memes, but that's okay.
Yeah,
sure.
I kind of blame myself, especially for this podcast.
But shall we talk about the most important superhero movie ever made? Wonder Woman?
Who said that?
No one said that. I made it up, but based on the based on the way the critical community and the internet at large has been reacting to this movie, that might as well be the conclusion one could draw.
Some are calling this the best superhero movie ever made. Who's saying that? You know, people. Who are these people? I demand to speak to them.
I would also like to speak to some of these people because, all right, look, this is not Civil War. This movie is not an appalling abomination of cinema.
This is not like a wow, there's something seriously wrong with Hollywood movies.
No, it is not.
There's that, and like no shit, it's better than Batman v Superman. I assume it's better than Suicide Squad.
I also assume that. So
we make movies better than Batman v Superman.
So Wonder Woman, the first movie from the new like DC cinematic universe to be watchable, I guess.
to not be a flaming pile of garbage that makes you distrust the cinema system at large.
Right, and based solely on that virtue, it seems, this movie has ridden to a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. And look, I want to support this movie. I really do. It's the first major
director.
Yeah, female director, first major superhero movie starring a woman. First major superhero movie
finally
directed by a woman.
Wonder Woman movie we've always been waiting for.
Yes. And Gal Gadot is great. I think she and Patty Jenkins deserve a much better movie.
Yeah, and also it's like Chris Pine is really charming in it.
Chris Pine is really charming in it. Yeah.
Okay.
This movie is good. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
I'll let you say that. I'll let you say
not good. It's fine. There is good stuff here. I think the second act of this movie is the strongest part, where you have Wonder Woman goes on embarks on a kind of a fish out of water narrative. She ends up in London as the First World War is in full swing. I will say this.
They kind of describe it as like Captain America, the First Avenger, but with World War I.
Right. Yes. Basically. And that's fine, because the First Avenger is one of the better Marvel movies. And I will say this. I think my friend pointed this out. They basically treat World War I like World War II in this movie.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like coding Imperial Germans as Nazis, which is just strange to me.
Yeah,
because I kind of learned, like, watching this movie I'm kind of an amateur World War I expert, and like the image of this movie to me is Wonder Woman charging a German trench in full red, white, and blue regalia, just bouncing off bullets, and I think, oh, so this is what Americans think of World War I.
They know nothing. And yeah, so the second act of this movie, you have all this kind of fish out of water stuff. Some pretty good action sequences, at least one. I think the one where she charges out of the trench is pretty okay.
The scene I'm talking about, that is like a legitimately well shot, well choreographed thing.
Yes.
I know. I do think like her attacking a Belgium town is an atrocious piece of editing, but
yeah. But then so then the third act is, I think, the one part that like all the critics kind of agree goes off the rails a little bit, but it doesn't completely ruin the movie. But holy God, that third act is not good.
Oh my God! Like, I mean, there's some like interesting ideas within it, but like, God, the CGI is atrocious. It's fucking awful.
It looks as bad as anything in Batman v Superman.
Yeah, it is. Like, there's like a scene in this movie where like Wonder Woman is trapped in metal, and like she breaks out of it by the strength of Chris Pine sacrificing himself. And what you think as like me as a sort of director, as amateur director, I think, oh, you'd have her slowly break out of it to show it has weight, but she's persevering. The movie just has her literally exploding out of it and then just like flying at a ridiculous speed at air race.
Yeah.
And it's awful. And the funniest fucking thing ever.
Yeah, and there's a twist in the third act that is just there for no reason. There's no reason that had to be a twist at all.
Yeah. I hate the framing device.
Yeah, that's not great.
I don't know. I kind of want to, like, because while after getting out of it, I'm like, oh, there's some good things in it. I like the second act. I like some of the fish out of water stuff. I like this like little battalion that she's built with Chris Pine and like the Native American and all. That's like a fun little thing.
Yeah.
But like the first act of this movie is pointless.
It's very boring.
There's like a bunch of setups that go absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, what I love. Do you remember how they tease like some like big reveal about Diana like through the entire movie, and then it's like, the sword is not the god killer. You are. And then she's like, okay. And then
like, there's also like this weird thing where it's like the first act of this movie sets up like Diana as the center of this war with the gods.
Yes.
But then Chris Pine crashes onto the beaches of Themyscira.
Yes.
And that's just fucking dropped until Ares shows up at the very end.
Yeah.
Like there's like it becomes pretty much Diana as naive fish out of water, which practically means that Chris Pine becomes the main. But the structure of the film is all around like Diana having this arc about like understanding humanity and so forth. And when you have like the entire second act dedicated to, hey, Chris Pine is kind of the real lead here, that just falls to pieces.
Well,
and it makes a movie with no connective thread running through it.
Well, I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I mean, she's still like kind of the dominating presence. Gal Gadot is a very
Visually she is.
Gal Gadot's a very good screen presence. Yeah, maybe she doesn't play as much of a role in the narrative through the second act, which is a bit of a problem. But I mean, I don't know. The gender politics of this movie are pretty good.
There's some interesting things in there. Like I don't know. I find like most of it's pretty low hanging fruit.
Yeah,
like,
well, for
sure.
She
meets a secretary. Oh, look, post-Victorian dresses are restricting.
Yeah, well, yeah, but given the current climate,
it's as good as we can.
It's pretty much as good as we can get, which is depressing. Yeah. But whatever, yeah, it's good that we have a female superhero. It's good that we can have a DC movie that is
not a giant pile of wank.
Yeah, not I mean, I think I texted you this. Like, Marvel's like default like operating procedure has kind of become a like network TV-esque lack of style, and DC's operating procedure now seems to be Zack Snyder's awful style. And
I'm like, I still don't know which one's worse.
I still don't know which one is worse.
I thought like, oh, the Snyder style is a little bit better because at least it's a style, but I'd go, well,
if it's gonna derail the movie that you're making, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know.
I know. Like, look, to me, this movie just kind of stands as an example of just how far action editing has fallen. Because like, there's like a scene. Like, I'm just going to describe this scene because I think it's like an example of just like everything wrong with sort of like this movie never really establishes how powerful Diana is. And in an action movie, that's really a problem.
Yeah.
Like it really fluctuates. Like, there's a point where, like, she's, like, attacking a Belgium town. And she, like, goes into, like, a warehouse full of German soldiers. She runs through the window, smacks some guys up. It's actually really similar to, like, the scene in Batman v Superman where Batman punches a bunch of people in a warehouse. Mm. And then she gets out of the warehouse, and there's like a point where like there's a sniper in a church. Oh no, we got to get rid of the sniper. So the little battalion holds up this steel plate, and what she thinks is going to happen is, oh, based on what we've seen before, she's going to jump through the window, slap around the sniper, and that'll be that. What actually happens is Diana jumps off the plate into the church, and the church literally explodes. In, like, this comic medium wide.
Yeah.
And, like, me and the people I saw, we just started just looking at each other. We just started cracking up. And, like, there's a bunch of, like, examples, like, poor editing throughout the movie. Like, the first act of this movie is full of just, like, really awkward reverse shot.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Technically, this movie, the tentacles of this movie really get up my crawl. I will say that.
Yeah. Look, I hope this movie leads to better things. I hope we can get more female super. Goddamn, I want a Black Widow movie.
Black Widow movie isn't Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel is coming. Yes, female-led. Brie Larson, love her. So here's hoping for that. Justice League looks like a flaming pile of shit, and I'm not going to see it. So.
We got this. It's watchable.
We got this. The DC universe has got something before it all burns to the ground.
And the superhero genre with it.
Yeah, pretty much. But hey, the Black Panther trailer looks pretty okay.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I would say it was one of the better things about that movie, but he was involved in the worst action scene in that movie, so... Civil War, I mean.
Oh. So that's that. That's Wonder Woman. But let's get to the main event here because we're going to have a lot to talk about.
We already have a lot of things to talk about.
All right. So at long last, we're talking about Christopher Nolan, a director who has proved somewhat divisive among us in the past. He's made what many consider the best superhero movie, The Dark Knight.
He's kind of become like a cultural touchstone of sorts. Like,
Inception
was like this great event for cinema.
Yeah.
Dark Knight Rises and Interstellar were hyped to all hell.
Yeah. I remember like when Inception came out, like people just couldn't stop talking about it. It was a very big thing.
It was the movie of that. What we thought was going to be the movie of that year.
Yeah. I feel like he's maybe waning a little bit. Like, 3 years on, I'm not sure anyone has anything to say about Interstellar.
Other ttn like, wow, isn't that ending bad? or saying like, wow, doesn't Dunkirk look dull?
Yeah, well, so this is a guy who I think is fair to say like once kind of meant a lot to me as a filmmaker, and now resonates with me much less than he once did. I think I rewatched Inception for the first time in a couple of years. I watched The Prestige again. I watched Memento again. And overall, it's fair to say I was a little bit underwhelmed by these movies. I liked them a little less than I had remembered.
I think I'm kind of exactly where I was before after watching Memento and Inception again. So
I think as more like on like a storyteller basis, I've never really seen a Nolan film, and then until now, it's like some elements might stick, but some probably won't. Like I was really fascinated about like, especially in his earlier films, his use of time, which I want to get into very much so.
Yeah. There's like he is a filmmaker with a defined style.
Yeah.
Who comes up with iconic images and iconic plots and iconic ideas.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like I also see him as like somebody who can tragically not tell a story visually.
Yeah, well, he certainly does have like I don't want to say tropes, but tropes.
He has tics, like all directors. He has like very defined tics.
But even his tics are maybe even more pronounced than most. He's like you say, he's a big fan of like non-linear like storytelling, telling the story like out of order with twisty
kind of proto mystery box.
Yeah, like really the mystery box generally kind of comes out of like the way the story is told. Like he tries to make the story itself into the mystery box a little bit.
Yeah, but that's really obvious in Memento of all things.
Yeah. Should we just go chronologically with these movies, or?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. So let's.
I didn't rewatch The Prestige, but I think I remember enough that we can do this. Okay,
goody. All right. So. Yes.
Did we already like share like our main theses on Nolan? I guess.
What is your main thesis, Dr. Reed?
My take on Nolan is that he is a half-intelligent filmmaker.
Okay.
Meaning he has a mastercraft and he shows it off quite well, but he's lazy in some of the story elements.
Yeah. Lazy.
I mean, he's clever and he follows through.
I do think that Christopher Nolan is an intelligent person.
Yes.
I do honestly believe that.
You can't watch his movies and go like, this guy is obviously stupid because he's
there's actually
not.
some like really deep. I don't like the word deep, but really thoughtful thematic resonance in some of these movies. Like The Dark Knight is just packed with like post 9/11 Patriot Act philosophy.
Yeah, but. Okay, so Memento, 2000, this was his first major movie, his second movie overall. I haven't seen his first movie following. I don't know if I will or not, but...
I don't care. Let's see.
Okay, so Memento is a movie that's pretty well known. It was kind of part of the indie boom of the 90s. It was one of those movies, kind of a breakout for Nolan. So Guy Pearce... as you probably know, stars as a guy, I think Leonard Shelby is his name, who has interrograde amnesia. He can't form new memories. And so to reflect that, this movie is famously told backwards, basically.
Yeah. The way the movie is situated, because like the retrograde amnesia, what we get is like a series of vignettes in like reverse chronological order.
Right.
Is like how the movie is told.
Yes. And they set it up like I think the construction of this movie is done very well. It's an effective thing. It's an effective device to put you in the head of the character. They do it so that they show you like pretty much like they jump back and then they show you all the way up until the beginning of the last segment that you saw.
Yeah.
That works pretty well. I don't know. I do think it's an effective like device to put you in the like frame of mind of this character. That to me works.
I don't know. Like to me, it seemed like it's like a really effective hook. Like this movie begins, and you're like, "Wow, what's going on? Who is this guy? What am I watching?" But after a certain point, you kind of get law of diminishing returns. Like the more you learn, you're just okay. Where's the fucking twist? Like
Right.
I think you just get like to like the hour point, and you're just like, "Where's the twist?
Yeah.
What am I doing?"
Yeah, this was one of sort of the drawback of having so many vignettes and so many, transition points between like earlier pieces in time and sort of like a linear but told backwards is that like time just moves so slow. Because about an hour in, well, I didn't know it was an hour in. And I'm like, okay, is the movie almost over? What do you mean it's only 52 minutes in? Fuck.
Yeah, you get that sort of like.
One of the real big issues that I had with this movie is that with all these like little short segments, time just.
Yeah. I don't know. Like some of these like vignettes are like really fascinating. Like some of them are just packed with like the idea of memory, and like there's at one point like there's a conversation about like if I cannot remember it, did it actually happen? Like that existential nightmare of reality itself is like I am only aware of what is in front of me.
Yeah.
If I cannot remember it, what good is it? What it might as well not exist. Like that's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that kind of like dawns on you like as you watch the movie, and if you like watch it a second time, like this is a really like very sad story. Like it's about a guy who is like losing his sense of self, who like just cannot form new memories, new connections. You know, he's losing what connection he has.
Like a pre-injury idea of himself.
Yeah. And of course the twist reveals that it's all kind of warped. But yeah, I think, there definitely is a law of diminishing returns with this movie. The further you go, the more you're kind of like, primed to paraphrase a famous French phrase, cherchez la twist, look for the twist, as it were. But I don't know. There is good stuff in I really like the stuff with like Carrie-Anne Moss, like kind of her whole like masquerade. I think is really interesting.
Yeah, this movie really has like the dead wife thing in a really big way.
Yeah, and Nolan's become like really maligned for that. Here it like almost works, but it's still a little okay. Here's what I mean, this movie is fine. It's entertaining enough. I don't think it really lends itself to repeat viewings. I think like once because it was interesting this time. Like I'd seen this movie before, but I'd forgotten most of it. So watching it again this time was kind of a new discovery. But like once you know everything and like have put everything together, there's almost no point to the movie. Like all the interesting ideas in it are like really not kind of followed through on.
You just kind of like one-off vignettes. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, and I don't really like the ending. Like I think the twist is like it's kind of interesting, but it's also like stupid and doesn't make any sense. Like why the fuck is a cop like using this guy to solve crimes? Like how does that work? Like what are they doing? Like
why is he hung around him for this long?
Yeah.
I don't know, like
I suppose what makes it incredibly problematic is that like if you like so like you're at the ending, but then you like trace it back forward, so you're moving forward in time, you sort of see is like, why the fuck is this cop doing this?
Yeah.
Especially with this guy and his condition that has clues of his car license plate and that he's a John G himself.
Like it makes no sense. I know, like I like the idea of the ending. Like I love this idea of like I have become like this roaming monster bent on revenge. But because of my condition and because of my view of myself, I cannot see that. I am constantly in like this comforting alternate reality that I've created. Like to me, I think that's like really sad and fascinating.
Yeah.
And kind of horrifying. But like, and this is kind of something I'm going to say. This is something the rest of the movie has, but like it comes up big in the end, and that how Nolan reveals it is just a fucking guy telling him it.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan does not know how to do visual storytelling. Like, one of like the more famous things in the movie is like a scene where like he thinks he's chasing someone, but then realizes he is being chased. And when I first heard of that scene, I'm like, wow, like a great existential piece of filmmaking. Like, what could you do with? How could you? I just imagine like how one would tell that visually, like using POV perspectives and different cinematic styles to shift from a man thinking he is chasing to him being chased.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it's just like an awkward, boring shot of him running, and you just hear him say, "I'm chasing someone." No, I'm being chased. And it's just the most boring way you could have done it.
I don't know. I mean, that moment is kind of funny. I think there are like
it's this existential piece that's just played as a joke.
Yeah. You know, there are moments of like humor and transgression in this movie that like I don't think the Nolan universe like ever kind of allows for again. Yeah. Like, this is one of his few movies that's rated R. So he kind of has some, you know, like more real, like, you know, language and kind of pushing at the boundaries of whatever.
Out of all his movies, out of all the movies I've seen, like, this feels the most connected to some sort of reality. It doesn't feel like it's some, like, weird, minimalist, alternate reality constructed by Nolan.
Mm-hmm. I think the point you kind of eventually reach with this movie, and this is going to be a recurring thread because it's just true of so many of his movies, like, it might just be a more interesting story if you remove the puzzle box structure.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was. I was like, just tell it in order,
or like even like
fucking tell it in order.
Well, what I noticed is that like with the deconstruction and sort of the like reversibility of this arc, it creates like a false character arc in that it's false, it's going the opposite way. But if you put it in forward time, it's just a deconstruction of the protagonist, and that kind of seems interesting on where it goes from there.
Or like what you could do is like get really fucky because like it's such like a vignette style. Like you could just put the pieces out of order as to suggest out of order and just like loose. Like there was no sense of time. There's no sense of place. It's just like a true representation of his memory, like what that would create.
Well, maybe, yeah.
He doesn't really do well when he puts things out of place and time, as we'll see, and as how I think he did in The Prestige, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, like this is all armchair filmmaker bullshit right now, and like at this point, like anyone who's listening is probably just conked out.
Yeah, I know, and it's not great to just kind of like be like, oh, if you'd done it this way, it would have been better. But like, I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, if you really think about it, like, I mean, what I'm coming to is like, if this movie had been like about Teddy and like how he's using a guy who like can't form new memories to help himself cases, like, I don't know, to me that sounds like a like more dramatic story than the one being told in this movie.
I don't know, like, to me, I think this is a great film robbed of its greatness by not a bad filmmaker, but sort of like a problematic filmmaker.
Sure.
I think that's kind of where we're coming at here. Like this movie's packed with great ideas, but the filmmaker isn't quite sure of any of them. Yeah, and is too tied to gimmick.
A clever filmmaker that is inconsistent in following through.
Yeah. And had Christopher Nolan grown a bit more of a filmmaker beyond this, I think we would forgive more things.
Yeah, but he kind of, I think maybe he stunted his growth somewhat when this movie was so well received.
And it kind of became like this.
I don't have a huge problem with the structure of this movie. I mean, it is actually endemic to the story, which is more than can be said for some movies that are told out of order for no reason.
Yeah, it's like this is like so much better than like the Fight Club fucking thing.
Yeah,
whatever.
Sure, but it's still problematic, and I don't love this movie, and I really don't think I'm ever going to need to watch it again.
I know. I do like it because I think like Christopher Nolan seems to get on to like his movies seem to like have like a lot of fucking moving pieces, but they have like this really defined core to them, and I think he thinks that like that's what makes it all work. It doesn't. And like whereas this is just all like one fucking guy, one fucking story, kind of one fucking arc.
Yeah.
And that's more satisfying than some of his other stuff. So like I do like this movie. I think this is probably one of my, maybe not my favorite of his, but one of one of his I like a bit more.
Okay.
I still think I like The Dark Knight more. That's just
All right, well, so that's Memento. So, moving on, 2006's The Prestige.
okay.
Magician movie.
Can I start?
Sure.
I wanted to do an antidote, but Reed, you go.
Okay. Actually, you know what? You do the antidote first, and then.
Okay. Tyler, it's been a while since I've seen this movie. I think it's been about 2 years.
Sure. Okay. Sure.
Just try my memory. David Bowie plays Nikola Tesla in this movie, right?
Yes.
Yep.
That's correct.
There is a scene where Hugh Jackman goes Nikola Tesla trying to duplicate things, right?
Well, Hugh Jackman is not trying to duplicate things, but what he gets is a magic duplication machine made by Nikola Tesla. Yes.
Okay. So and the way they try and test this machine is they try and teleport a black cat.
Yes.
But the black cat's not in the room, so the machine failed, and they walk out dejected out of the big complex, and then they find a shit ton of black cats running around in the snow.
Yes.
And they look at each other like, huh?
Yeah.
That happened. Okay.
Yes, that
That's
happens.
legitimately one of the dumbest things I've ever seen on a cinema screen.
Okay. All right. Now we've got that out of the way.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that's in the movie, and I'm not just like remembering things wrong.
No, yeah, that's definitely. I thought it was hats, and then they just did the cat at the end, just to try something new. But
yes. Well, there's also hats.
There's also hats, yes.
Which hat is mine? They're all your hats.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Reed, what did you want to say about this film?
Okay, so comparing this one to Memento, I liked how Memento played with time more than this one.
Okay.
Because how it plays. Can you explain how this plays with time?
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Like so for its methodology, because when I saw it, I was kind of angry at this film because I'm like, you're playing with time and it makes no fucking sense why the hell you're doing it, Nolan.
Okay.
Damn you, Nolan.
Well, I kind of disagree. Because I think my thing is like I think this is his most like interesting and like maybe best constructed movie like on a structural level. Like I like the like flashback within a flashback kind of like nesting doll structure of it.
Oh shit, that is in the movie. Fuck.
I kind of enjoy that. So the deal is like you start with like Hugh Jackman like dying in a water tank, and like Christian Bale is convicted of his murder or like accused of his murder. He is given supposedly Hugh Jackman's diary and starts reading it, which flashes back to Hugh Jackman in Colorado going to see Nikola Tesla, where he's reading Christian Bale's supposed diary, and then so that leads to more flashbacks, and like the story is kind of more or less like told in order once you get like through the flashback structure. But I don't know. I like it because this movie is about trickery. This movie is about like fooling people and the way artists fool people. Is it super well told and a very thoughtful examination of that? No. What it is a pretty entertaining movie about magicians, starring Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman, both giving pretty fun performances.
Yeah. I love Hugh Jackman in anything, and we all love Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think this movie explains a lot about Christopher Nolan. It's not his best movie. I think it may be it's one of his most entertaining. I am very entertained by it, even if I don't ascribe a lot of
meaning to it,
brilliance to it. I don't know. I do like this movie. It has a lot of the same kind of problems that a lot of Nolan movies do. Like, as I say, it shows you a lot about him. It shows you really just how much more concerned he is with like twists and with trickery storytelling than with character.
Yeah.
It shows you really how bad he is at writing female characters.
Oh my god! Like this has 2 dead wives, doesn't it?
Yes, 2 dead wives.
I don't know. Like to me, I think this just has some of the dumbest things I've ever seen in a fucking Christopher Nolan movie. Like we have the magic Nikola Tesla device. We have like the twist.
That is my least favorite part of the movie. The fact that they like bring in Nikola Tesla and actually kind of like delve into like his history with Thomas Edison and like this development of electricity. That's all interesting stuff. And then they just kind of like throw that out the window to have him create a magic duplicator machine.
Yeah, and like the fucking twist with Christian Bale is just he's got a twin brother.
Yeah. They in hindsight, that twist is so obvious because they are seeding it throughout the entire movie.
Oh yeah.
It is incredible.
It's still stupid.
Well,
why the fuck is that? Why the fuck is that our twist? That's the dumbest fucking twist that it could have been.
Well, here's the thing. I think it would be less dumb if it weren't a twist. This is, again, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
This movie would be so much more interesting if they focused on, like, oh, it's twin Christian Bales. One of them is devoted to the art. One of them wants a family. And they maintain this charade of just one person because of their total commitment to the art form. That's super interesting.
Yeah,
but you don't get any of that because it's obfuscated until the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Because the movie's actually about just a massive dick measuring contest between Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman. That's what the movie's really about here. It doesn't give a shit about Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. It doesn't give a shit about magic. It's just about a dick measuring competition.
Well,
wrapped up in a fucking, like, multi-time verse thing.
But John, that dick measuring competition is also about cinema.
Here's the thing about Christopher Nolan. F for fake exists.
Yeah.
I can just watch that.
Well, and the other thing is that, like, Nolan, if you're like, your philosophy about cinema is to, like, prize, like, trickery and fooling the audience above all else, like, I think you've got your priorities mixed up.
Yeah, like, I think, like, we're filmmakers.
Sure.
I don't think we're charlatans.
I hope not.
I don't think we're I think, like, what we're about, like, if anything, like, filmmakers, we work on, like, an assumption of trust with the audience. Like, we assume, like, they have a basic level of intelligence. Like, we assume that they will accept our world building and accept our constructions.
Right. Well, and
I think, like, if anything, it's a relationship about trust more than anything.
Well, and that's what's interesting about this movie is that it kind of uses that against you. That's one aspect of the movie that I think I will stick up for, is how he uses, like, your expectation of, like, film grammar and staging and stuff to... There's a reason they, like, you know, that, like, kind of bearded, like, assistant person who's also Christian Bale, who's, like, like, one of the brothers masquerading as, like, his assistant or whatever. Like, they never, like, keep the camera on him for more than, like, 5 seconds at a time. Like, which, once you know the twist, like, is obvious, like, because it's also Christian Bale and they don't want you to figure that out. But, like, you don't really catch on to that until you've seen the movie, once already. Yeah. You're just kind of like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you're kind of caught off guard. And so, Reed, what are your thoughts on this movie before I kind of finish the thought?
I actually kind of like the twist. That sort of, in my opinion, that kind of saved the movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, it certainly does help things make a lot more sense.
Yeah. It's certainly a movie with some interesting ideas. Like all Nolan pictures.
Yeah, and then, I mean, especially, like, at the very end, it no longer becomes who has the greatest trick. It becomes who has the biggest dick.
Yeah, like...
especially when murder and death is involved.
After a while, it just becomes, like, two guys cheating in a way to beat each other.
I think how, like, I sort of describe... I think how I can describe this movie and how, like, the course of events take on is whatever reactions Michael Caine's character has to this movie, where he's just disgusted by just the brevity of this dick measuring contest has gone, and he just says, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." to roughly paraphrase him.
I don't think this movie works at all. I think it's got some fun performances and some good ideas, but I think, like, this, I'd argue, like, this is one of his most sloppy movies.
This is sloppy, and his construction of time doesn't work. Plus, his characters are pretty stagnant, only with the shallow goal of, aha, I'm better than you, or
I have the longest magical dick.
Exactly.
Title of this episode, isn't it?
Well, we have some pretty good quotes running, so we'll see what happens. I still like this movie.
No, that's fine. Like, it's totally fine. There's entertaining things in the movie.
I find it's very entertaining. You know, here's kind of my final thought on it. The first time you watch it, you're like kind of confused, and you're like, "What's going on?" Like, I know there's going to be a twist because Nolan always has a twist, but like, what's it going to be? Like, what is going on? Then you find out the twist, and you're like, "Whoa!" And like, I gotta watch this movie again. And then you watch it again, and you're like, "Oh, okay. So this is why this. Okay, got it. Okay. This all makes more sense now." And then the third time you watch it, it's like, okay, they are seeding the shit out of the twist. How the fuck did I miss it? And then you kind of realize, like, nothing in this movie makes any sense unless you know the twist. The way the characters act makes no sense unless you know the twists. And that is a problem. I still think the movie's entertaining.
Yeah.
And I know the twist now, so...
I guess my thing is that, like, I got to the twist and said, "Oh, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen." Click. And I never need to watch this ever again. So...
Probably that.
Is that our final thoughts on? I think this is the most negative I'm going to get with Nolan. It's just because this is this fucking movie.
Well, we're not talking about Dark Knight Rises or Interstellar today, so
no,
that's helpful.
Dark Knight Rises is just so fucking funny with some of the shit.
Okay, but that's that. If that's all, shall we move to 2010's Inception?
The movie that ruined trailers forever.
Yes, but...
I don't blame it for that. That's just a thing.
Yeah, no, I don't want to blame it for that either, because the score for this movie is actually really good. People forget about that just because it has ruined trailer music.
So, when I got a preview of how long this is, I was like, holy shit, this is way too fucking long of a movie. But then I got to around the hour 40 mark, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I know Nolan has like a tarnished reputation of explaining things, but I think this is a pretty okay length for as far as how long I've gotten and sort of foreseen what happens next. Especially as they go through the dream within the dream within the dream.
Yeah.
My issues aren't with length, because I think this is just a Duttless movie, but I don't know, like, my issues with it aren't with length, I think, or actually maybe I don't know. I think it's just more like I never like felt like, wow, this is like the longest fucking movie. I more just thought like, wow, this is the boringest fucking movie.
I didn't really feel that way for as much as I watched it. Like, I felt like the beginning parts was slow, but when they started going to like when they carried out what they want to do, from then on, it really picks up.
Well, Reed, you had not seen this movie before, though, correct?
Right.
Okay.
I had.
Okay. Well, can I tell my story? Because
this I want this to be your platform.
Okay. So, I first saw this movie when I was 13 or 14, some months after it had come out and kind of taken the world by storm. And I saw it, blew my mind wide fucking open. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It catapulted into like being one of my favorite movies ever. I've seen this movie so many times. I watched it a bunch of times. I always liked it. So this time I was coming into it. I had not seen it in a couple of years. So I was like, okay, I hope I will still like this movie or find it to be, we'll see how I gauge it now.
Proved John wrong.
Yeah. Like I said, I loved this movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was so clever. I thought it was super cool. The premise I thought was just awesome. Still kind of think that. Watching it now, I do still like it. I think this movie has some things that work in a way that they don't often work in Nolan's movies. I think this is maybe the best he's done with like emotional dynamics, aside from maybe that scene in Interstellar where Matthew McConaughey like watches his kids grow up.
Well, that's the only thing that works emotionally in Interstellar.
Yeah. But so this movie definitely has Nolan problems. And around that, when the movie came out, like the big thing was like that everyone was talking about was like, oh, Inception's so confusing. Like, oh, Inception, like you really have to pay attention. Like. And no, like this movie holds your hand the entire fucking time. Like it walks the viewer like, and people.
I swear to God, Ellen Page is just here
Well,
as like an audience analog.
Okay, I'll get to that in a minute, but people are stupid. Like I that's true. You know, Donald Trump's the president. People are stupid. So, you know, and Nolan makes big budget movies. This movie cost $160 million. You know, he makes big budget movies for a major studio that are expected to have a mass appeal. Like, I've heard, like, he seems to take studio notes very seriously. And this is very much a movie with, like, an art house premise made for the masses.
Yes.
And that's fine. I don't inherently have a problem with that. I think
it just makes you just like really boring.
I can understand that. Like, yes, the visuals are like kind of dull. You know, yes, everything is like explained all to hell. I think Nolan probably felt like he had to do that, and like he couldn't make this movie like super stylishly risky, or maybe he just isn't a
like
stylishly risky person.
I don't think Nolan's limiting himself too much. I think like the explaining certainly shows of like I need to like guide a general audience along, but like all the visual stuff is like that's all par for the course for Nolan.
Well, Nolan is also very symptomatic of like something I've talked about before, which is like the new kind of screenwriter's urge to explain everything. Like when my friends and I was watching this movie with a couple of friends of mine, and we at times we were just nitpicking the hell out of it, and the movie just kind of lends itself to that because Nolan tries so hard to apply real world logic to this fantastical premise,
and I'm like, no one cares,
and
no one cares.
No, like look at something like Paprika, like nothing is explained, and I don't want this to just be an Inception versus Paprika thing, but Paprika does not feel the need to explain anything, and because of that, you just go with whatever random shit happens in that movie. Inception tries...
The movie goes, it's dreams! Go with it, you bitch!
Inception tries so hard to apply logic to everything and make sure everything makes sense that you're like, when things like don't make sense and when there are plot holes, you're like, but wait! Like, so... You know, that really cripples the movie in a way that I was not aware of before.
That's all the dialogue. It's just like us explaining things.
Yes.
And like even like the emotional stuff is like it just covered in like we need to explain like what's Ma doing here, what's going on, what's their relationship like.
Well, okay, and Ellen Page. You know, only there to ask questions, to be the audience surrogate. And I think this movie would be at least 10% better if she had some kind of romantic attachment to Cobb. If she were, like, actually invested, like, it makes no sense why she is so interested in Cobb's past and why she, like, is trying to figure all this stuff out. Like,
that is true, yeah.
I'm very much, like, against just making female characters love interests, but this is a case where it would actually be a good choice.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, this movie has, like, the dead wife syndrome, and I think in just, like, the worst way, because, like, the only, like, emotional thing in this movie is Cobb saying, my wife is dead!
I mean, okay, here's the thing. I like Leonardo DiCaprio. I think his performance in this movie is very good. I think he brings a lot to this character who maybe was not really there on the page. And
I'd argue that this is his most boring performance, but go on.
Okay, whatever. I think he brings enough charisma and persona to it that it makes it kind of interesting. The dead wife stuff in this, I mean, yes, it's become such a like heavy trope with Nolan, but I think in this movie it works because the emotional dynamics of this, like, maybe like other directors certainly understand emotional dynamics better than Christopher Nolan seems to. But like the third act kind of twist of this where it's like, oh, he feels like he's so guilty about like the death of his wife because like he planted this idea in her head that like came to consume her. And like this whole idea of like how the specter that's haunting him is like not actually his wife, but just like his like mental image and like remembrance and like his construction of his wife. Like he says to her, like, you were the best that I could do, but like you're not, you're just not good enough. That's a fascinating idea that I've never quite gotten out of my head. I think the emotional dynamics of this movie and like the catharsis that he goes through, where he's like, we did grow old together. We spent all this time together in the dream space, and like I enjoy all of that. I think it's not completely effective and doesn't completely work, but it's definitely more effective than most of Nolan's emotional dynamics.
Okay, the idea of like this woman is not a real person, but just like an apparition of Cobb, fascinating. The movie does nothing with that. It's just like this. It's almost like presented like a twist.
It is presented like a twist.
It's a twist. And like the Ma has no character. She is an object.
But you could argue that that's by design, because she's just a mental projection of.
Right. Yeah.
On an ideological level, that works. But the movie really wants me to care emotionally about this. And when that woman is nothing but just a blunt object, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is just like a no man's land of a movie. Just like as an art house piece, it explains way too much and it's just way too dull.
Sure.
And as like a crowd pleaser, it's just way too bogged down in its own mythology to really go anywhere. Like in essence, what this is like a heist movie with a bunch where everyone explains the philosophy of dreams on top of it.
Yeah.
I don't know, and like I mean, to go back to like the dull visuals. I mean, like I think I'm going to quote Clay Keller again. The movie is unforgivably dull in like how this dream works. Like we go to a warehouse in the rain, a boring business hotel, snowy mountains.
Ellen Page is a shitty architect. Yes, we know.
like the dream space that Leonardo DiCaprio creates is like this boring, nightmarish 70s city.
Okay, sure. I think I don't think this is a coincidence though. Like Nolan seems to be a very like kind of blue steel, like kind of like sleek industrial kind of like filmmaker, and like that seems to be where his interests lie. So I can kind of understand why his dream space seems to be all that stuff.
But when you're dealing with dreams, that just seems like the most boring options you could go with.
Sure.
Like you could do anything, and this is what you decided to go with. Like that's just sort of that's all I can think about as someone who loves visual storytelling and loves building worlds. I love Miyazaki and Terry Gilliam, people like that. And to see this is what... And especially coming off of Paprika of all things, and this is what Christopher Nolan has to do with dreams.
Okay. Yes. I completely sympathize with that. I understand all these criticisms. I understand that they're valid criticisms. Yeah, I still enjoy this movie. I can't help it.
Go right ahead. You're not a bad person for liking Inception.
Look, I mean, obviously, like, the first, like, 20 minutes or so are great, where they, like, have not explained anything, and you're kind of like, oh, we're in the dream.
Like, it's kind of what the movie should have been, where it's like, we're just, like, showing you this world, and, like, we are giving you the rules of it, and we're not really explaining it. We're just kind of, you just have to go off and just interpret it visually.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. So at least we have that. I do love that, like, they are kind of incorporating, like, Paprika, it, like, has very different things on its mind. It's all about feelings and, like, memories and, like, perception and stuff like that. Inception is much more, like, about, like, they bring in, like, the real, like, science of dreams. Like, that's fascinating to me. Like, they talk about, like...
It's kind of a science fiction movie.
Yeah, like, they have that. They got, like, paradoxical architecture, like, the idea of lucid dreaming.
Really cool idea, and that's a great little setup and payoff where, like, they pan down, they tilt down, and there's
the Penrose stairs or whatever.
Not to mention bullshit chemistry right there.
Chemistry.
Yeah.
I think it's lovely that they get
a compound that leaves the inner ear intact so they can feel balance. And I'm sitting here going, fuck you.
I do love, like, the chemist room they go to.
Time to find that.
I do love like the chemist room they go to, and it's just full of jars that look like they're full of glowing piss. I kind of love that.
There's that. I mean, they have the idea of like you don't remember the beginning of a dream, and like that's kind of how you figure out that you're dreaming. I love that. Like the idea that like you die in a dream, you wake up. That's all interesting stuff.
I love the scene where like they're like, oh, he's doing a gamble. He's going to tell them he's in a dream to
Yeah.
try and get
Oh,
him to next.
love that. Love that. I
That's
love
the
that.
best idea.
I love that scene, like, where they go to the chemist and, like, they see all those people who are, like, all sharing the dream because, like, it's the only way they can dream and, like, the dream has become their reality. I'm really into that.
Yeah.
There's some really interesting shit in the movie. I'm not going to deny it.
Look, I think the point to take away here is that if Noah Hawley could make this movie into an FX miniseries, I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think... Yeah, like I just think it's like really dull and like just I personally think it's like a no man's land of a movie. But like that's just what I think. People love this movie, and I will say this: like I do like the ambiguous ending and how like it all could have been a dream and like that sort of reality bending idea. That's interesting, but yeah, I don't like this movie.
Reed, do you have anything to say about the however long of this movie that you watched?
Yeah, so basically I got to basically the third layer.
Mm-hmm.
It's with Cobb in like a Call of Duty like scenario when he's like as like a Spetsnaz like winter sniper.
Yeah. Just
looking out and like I'm just like, what the fuck? Oh wait, it's time to podcast. Okay, stop now. So I do appreciate the fact that it's very easy to follow Cobb's character arc in this, but at the same time, I think that's kind of lazy.
I'd argue there is no arc. It just all boils down to my wife is dead, and my wife is an object.
See, but I think like with the Ellen Page character, like it sort of yanks it out of the story, but at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, I can follow this. But at the same time, it's like it's like, aren't we supposed to just like watch and figure it out, not like you tell us what it is?
Yeah, It's a very telly movie, and that's not great. I don't know.
Like, I'm sorry if, like, we just feel like we're just putting you down right now.
No. I mean, I watched this movie with my roommate, Daniel, occasional guest on this podcast. Well, one time, maybe returning at some point. Yeah. He turned so hard on the movie. Like, he seems to hate it now. Like, and he was so shocked. Like, he had remembered loving this movie and was, like, so shocked by, like, how bad he thought it was this time. And
were his points like mine, or
somewhat, and he was all like, kind of stuck on like how little in the movie makes sense, and like, again, all valid points. I certainly recognize the value of all these criticisms. It's just like I'm still entertained enough by the movie and find enough interesting stuff in it that I am willing to forgive it to a certain amount. Certainly,
that's a perfectly valid opinion that we will accept.
Certainly, it is not a movie that I will continue to place like in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I don't think if I can. It's also been a while since I've rewatched The Dark Knight, so maybe that's waiting for me. But I that's maybe the only Christopher Nolan movie that I still maybe value quite as much as anywhere near as much as I used to.
Yeah, I will tell this to Daniel, is that I don't care that it doesn't make sense. What I care about is that it thinks I care that I think I care that it makes sense.
That's okay. That valid point. All right, so okay. This has been an odyssey. We were fairly conciliatory. I think we have sort of reached a sort of consensus on Nolan. We have tried to be fair. I'm still gonna see Dunkirk. So
yeah, what are sort of like, you kind of talked about it a little bit. Like, are you excited about it?
I am cautiously excited because I really don't like Interstellar. Harry Styles is in this movie, and every time I remember that, I get depressed.
I've heard he's in it for like 2 minutes, and then he dies.
Good.
He goes on.
Okay, I'll fully support that. I hear that it's like it's doesn't have a lot of dialogue. It's like just kind of a tense survival movie. I don't know how Nolan could possibly turn this into a puzzle box movie, so that can only be a good thing.
Plot twist: a German went with them back to the UK.
God, I hope not.
Yeah, I know. I just see the trailers and I go, "Wow, I'm already bored." Because it just seems like any other World War II movie to me.
I mean, the Churchill quote that they like supersede over the footage is dull.
Guys, World War II filmmakers. Let me tell you this: the Nazis are the interesting people. Make movies about those. That's what we're here for now.
Yeah.
We've gotten the Allies out of our system. We just wanted to learn about the Nazis now. I think that's what we need.
See, that's kind of why I took some interest in Captain America: The First Avenger, because there's a lot about this fictitious Hydra, which is like this
fake blue Nazis.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's Christopher Nolan week. I think we can wrap that up with a bow and put it to bed. Coming up, hopefully, filmmakers that we will have much more positive thoughts about.
Hopefully.
So I think it's about time to kick off our Summer of Foreign Filmmakers.
Yes.
Formerly Summer of Europa, now probably not.
We don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and we just really want to watch some Asian movies too. So, hooray! Here we are.
We've made it.
We're kicking it off. Now the question is, who do we want to start with? If I may humbly make a suggestion,
do so. I have no suggestions.
I would like to start with a British filmmaker.
Okay.
I was thinking that too.
That might be a good entry point.
I don't necessarily have a preference, but Mike Leigh is someone that I've danced around for a while that I would be interested in. He has a lot of movies. We could do Powell and Pressburger. We could do Richard Curtis, who is a bit off of the beaten path in terms of just like the acclaimed auteurs, but I kind of want to see some of his work because I haven't seen any of it. I've
never seen a Powell and Pressburger movie, I think.
Nor have I.
Nor have I.
Powell and Pressburger?
All right. Diving right in with Misters Powell and Pressburger. Okay, so I think we should do The Red Shoes. That's a very acclaimed movie of theirs. I would like to do The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. That movie...
Yeah, that one sounds fascinating.
That movie is very long, but I think...
Black Narcissus also looks interesting.
I think we could pull this off. What are we feeling like?
I don't know. I think like The Red Shoes and I think both of those I'm been interested in. Maybe I'll try to watch Black Narcissus in the meantime because that one seems fascinating to me. And it's shorter.
It is also shorter. Okay, so Red Shoes. The Red Shoes is also kind of long. It's also over 2 hours, but that seems to be one of their essentials.
2 hours 16. That's fine.
All right, and we've got some time on our hands, hopefully. So next week, Powell and Pressburger kicking off our foreign filmmakers series. So for the next few months, we will not be doing any work by any directors who were born in the United States of America, which is great because I think we would all like to leave the United States of America for a little while. All right.
I'm trying to leave forever, but
they've all come to look for. Well, no, because I probably for 20 years. And then once the rubble sets, I'll just go back and just help rebuild.
Oh, I'm not going
empire that the U.S. should always have become. So
you guys can go back. I'm staying.
Okay.
Well,
next week. All right. Next week, The Red Shoes, The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, and possibly Black Narcissus coming your way.
We'll see what happens.
Off we go. Huzzah!
Hopefully, a fascinating week.
I'd like to think so.
I think so too.
Thank you all for joining us.
Movies sound absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us for this episode.
the War of. It's not really the War of Dunkirk because it's when is Dunkirk coming out?
Dunkirk does not come out until July, so we've got some time to take a step back and look at ourselves.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Well, we will attempt to do it anyway.
Well,
Shit.
we'll
ISPs.
we'll muddle through.
I am armed with ginger beer and cookies, so. Is Christopher Nolan a mystery boxer?
Son of a bitch! It's a Sunday. Get the fuck away. Get the fuck. I'm trying to record, motherfucker.
Is there like a delivery truck outside or something?
No, there's like a fucking like it looks like they're like taking out trash or something. And there's like a giant fucking crane. Excavator equipment, and I just like hear noise all of a sudden, and I just see a big green thing. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
I've rubbed off on you. You just now like look off screen and just scream, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
Hooray.
I'm the meme lord here, and yet I'm not the one who's trumpeting memes on this podcast. I find that strange.
I know. Well, especially on this particular episode, but
Of course.
so I have on my board. I guess we'll just as we go through. Wait, what?
Just show us the fucking board. What's on the board?
You can't fucking read it. Can you read that?
I cannot read that.
God, you're right. That's awful.
You wank. Yes. I told you.